Bad Roman is a kind of new age Italian American leaning, but more Italian restaurant in Columbus Circle. So this is like Central Park South in what used to be the Time Warner building. I think Momofuku's in that building now, Per Se's in that building, Moss is in that building. So it's very famous shops along with some great restaurant tenants. I can see this restaurant being used for a variety of different customers and guests, tourist driven, local driven, running the gamut of it. So my first take of just glancing through this wine list for a couple minutes is overall, this is a really well curated wine list. It really kind of speaks again to the different clients that use this restaurant. So like, hey, this is their bubbles. This is kind of the first page of the real wine list with some offerings. And it's like, yeah, just for champagne, they have entry level Perrier-Jouet for $115, which in Manhattan, New York City, I think is very affordable. And also it can make a friend. And then also like, hey, the people in the know, Agripar is a great grower producer, and that for $180 is fair market price, right? Some of the more fancy things, Jérôme Prévost, a little expensive. Paul Roger, Winston Churchill 2015, a little expensive. I wonder how many people are actually buying that. I would say if you have Perrier-Jouet, you might be missing a guest or two that you're not offering Dom Perignon or Cristal, right? Winston Churchill might be a wine that might see more in the know of serious wine people, buyers, or, wine connoisseurs. But hey, this is a nice little champagne first page, right? Moving into white wines, my one, critique of this wine list is that the organization is a little clunky. You have skin contact wines at the top of your white page. I would argue you put that into a rosé section. You definitely don't want to lead with that. And then again, Italian varietals in the US, a little, just kind of a weird segue, if you will, because in an Italian restaurant, you want to kind of lead with your cheap and cheerful things up at the top of the page, just so when a guest looks at the wine list for the first time, they see things that have value, right? So for instance, Italian sparkling wine can be a good place to find value with things like, Prosecco and Franciacorta, but, the Franciacorta that they have on offer, starts at $90. They have Pet Nat, which are going to be a little more funky, natural, start at 75, so there could be an opportunity there just to like offer value kind of in the 50 to $70 price range. They have an Italian white section of Italian whites, a large page of Italian whites. Just by the way that they have broken up this first white page, I could see that this Italian white page could get organized from like north to south, or in two different, a southern Italian white region or a section, Northern Italian white section. I understand where these wines come from here on the Sauvignon Blanc and Chardonnay, that they use this kind of as a catch-all area for wines from France that are Sauvignon Blanc, and then also American Sauvignon Blanc wines. I commend their wine choices because, again, they're smart in saying, okay, well, people are going to be shopping for Sancerre. I'm going to have them all kind of in one place, a variety of different price steps. Same thing with Chardonnay. There could be an entry-level Chablis here. Probably could make some friends and generate some sales. A lot of Italian whites. I think that they are, again, just kind of a critique on the build of the wine list. The Italian whites have kind of like a sentence to kind of help guide guests. But again, it's not throughout the entire wine list. It's only on certain sections.
Where is the most value in the white section?
If I was going to go in here and drink something around value, I would drink this Punta Crena Vermentino. That wine is like stony, shellfish driven, very briny, mineral driven for $85. If I want to spend a little bit more money, the wines of Romagna are very, I would say, trendy right now, especially on the red side. But like that wine is going to have a great mouthfeel to it, some structure. My one critique of the Italian white section is there isn't any Pinot Grigio, which tends to be a very easy sell and also a good profit driver for an Italian restaurant. On the same side, there is some value here on the high end. Like this bottle of Aubert Chardonnay for $225, I think is kind of a deal. Those wines tend to wholesale around 85 to 90, $85 to $100 tend to be like some of the best well-made Chardonnay in California. So I would say that's like a good, if you wanted to splurge. And then, okay, so going into reds, right? This is a tactic and I wonder how it works for them, but they're leading with American non-Italian wines here. There isn't a Bordeaux section. Again, kind of where they are. I think Bordeaux would probably be an easy sell at this restaurant, but they have some Burgundy they're all well priced from good producers. So for those people that want that, it's there. They have American Pinot Noir split between Oregon and California. They're doing business with the right people. And then, again, you're in Midtown Manhattan. You're in a place that people probably eat steaks and heavy pastas, and you have a whole page of California and Washington state cabernets. Like, this is smart menu design for the people that are looking to buy that stuff. I'd say, hey, kudos to the wine director. Like, they have Camus. It's a very fair price for Midtown Manhattan. They price Special Select, which generally you can find on a wine list for $500, $600. They have it for $100 more than Camus. And I think this is like a great step. If someone balks at paying $250 for Camus, hey, you can pay $100 more and get like a whole lot more wine with Special Select for a very reasonable price. Right. They have the expensive stuff for people who want it. And then getting into Italy Red, in my experience, an Italian restaurant is people are looking at, maybe they're not familiar with Italian Reds, but they're just looking for things that aren't super expensive, that gets them kind of, hey, I like drinking American Pinot Noir, I like drinking Cabernet. What would be something similar? And you've kind of built these sections in a way that is giving people these options that gets them, oh, this is really smart too. Super Tuscans, any Italian restaurant that is going to sell a lot of steaks, Super Tuscans are going to be kind of a staple of these restaurants. And this is a really clever page because you have your Luce Lucenti for $85, but then you kind of have a collection of some of the great Super Tuscan producers all in one area where you can highlight to guests. Some of the expensive stuff is a little expensive, right? Hey, if that Masseto was $9.95, how many more bottles of Masseto would you sell than if it was $1,400? But overall, this is a very clever page in the wine list. Awesome. And they have a nice selection of Brunello, kind of the same idea of people looking for
Italian
these certain styles of Italian wine when you're in a restaurant like this. You have other Italy.
Yep.
Feature Nero Mascalese, some large formats, cocktails, by the glass. So we're looking at by the glass now.
Wow. So it's at the end of the list.
Sure. And I think this is kind of a clever, a good way to
encourage ordering a bottle.
Yes.
Order a bottle.
By the glass and the cocktails that are in the back of the book. So they're not going to poach bottle sales.
Yeah.
But yeah, it looks great. And hey, I would say cocktails, you have cocktails starting at $18, which is very fair, I think, for where they are. And then you have wines by the glass starting at $17. Again, I think very fair. My one last comment is the half bottle section is very well orchestrated. Wines with name, with cachet that are well priced. They're all kind of in a range, and they're also varietals of, you don't see these kind of wines in the glass section, right? You don't have a Brunello in the glass section. You have a Barolo. You have this Campo Costa Barolo for $26, or you can drink Gaia Langhe Nebbiolo for basically $50 a glass. That's a good upsell tool.
Very nice. And what would you, from the red section overall as a whole, what would you drink based on value?
What I would drink in the red section, I would drink this Buglione Valpolicella. It's a ton of wine for $90. Would be great with a lot of things on the menu. And then I would also drink this Cross Barn Sonoma Coast Pinot Noir. This is a Paul Hobbs wine.
Out of 5 stars, how many stars would you give this list?
I would give this a 3.5 out of 5. It's a good list. There's definitely some pricing holes, but overall, I think it's great.
When you say pricing holes, do you mean like some gaps in terms of
Yeah,
steps?
exactly. Like, hey, maybe they don't want to sell some 60 to $150 bottles of wine, but like there's probably opportunities there.